We have to stop judging people who are considering surrendering their animal and start trying to find a way to keep the animal in the home it has and help that home be better than just take that animal in and hope to find, quote unquote, the perfect home for it, when we actually have no control of what happens to the animal after it gets adopted. So we know what the needs of the people are who have the animal. Let's help them, people, so that they can keep the animal in that home.
I am really excited to share that the Nonprofit Podcast Network will now be increasing the number of nonprofit stories we get to share. With the generous support from CapTrust, fiduciary advice for endowments and foundations, you can find them in Sacramento, Roseville, and Folsom, Runyon Saltzman Incorporated, RSE, Marketing, Advertising, and Public Relations, creating integrated communications committed to improving lives, and Western Health Advantage, a full-service healthcare plan for individuals, employer groups, and families. These businesses have made it possible for the Nonprofit Podcast Network to go from a once-a-month episode to once-a-week episode, allowing us to serve that many more nonprofit agencies in our community. Please give preference to these companies if you require their services, and if you don't, heck, write, call, or comment on their websites with a thank you. Oh, and be very sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode every Wednesday. Welcome to the Nonprofit Podcast Network. Our purpose and passion is to highlight a nonprofit organization in each episode, giving that organization an opportunity to tell their story in their words to better inform and educate the respective communities they serve, as well as provide one more tool for them to share their message to constituents and donors. Hi, I'm Jeff Holden, principal of Hear Me Now Studio. We provide this forum pro bono to help build stronger communities through shared voices and to both encourage and support the growth of local nonprofit organizations through podcasting. Just on the edge of town, there are 20 acres of property full of dog barks, kitten purrs, and plenty of petting and licking. But there's more. People, and a lot of them. Intake people, adoption people, veterinarians who on this particular day that I visited had performed 48 surgical procedures in one day. Our Sacramento SPCA is the equivalent of a hospital trauma center, emotional wellness facility, and family joy experience center. Did you know there's a long-haired rabbit called a lionhead rabbit? Neither did I, but darn, they're cute. Well, somebody needs to keep this much-needed operation running smoothly, and for just a while longer, that person is and has been Ken Altine. Before becoming a leader in animal welfare, Ken spent 25 years in print journalism as an editor for papers small and large. He's been profiled in numerous local, national, and even international publications and has received the Meritorious Service Award from the California Veterinary Medical Association, even though he's not a vet. An avid motorcyclist and adventurist, he logged nearly 100,000 miles on his 1993 Harley and spent 4 months traveling around Australia in an SUV. He's lived in a tent without electricity or indoor plumbing for 2 years in the mountains of far northern California, and there he taught himself electrical whole house wiring and solar as part of building an off-the-grid house. He's been in animal welfare for just over 12 years, starting as executive director of the Southern Oregon Humane Society in Medford, Oregon, then moving to Sacramento in 2016 to take the position as CEO of the Sacramento SPCA. He's married, has 2 dogs, and lives in the Tahoe Park neighborhood. Now, how on earth did he end up here, and how has his leadership literally transformed the Sacramento SPCA into the nationally recognized organization that it is today? Let's find out. Ken, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
We are so excited to have you here because most of the programs, all of the programs we've done have been either business or human-centered, so to speak, and not necessarily anything but. So having stories of animals and pets, I just can't wait to hear what the conversation is going to be like.
Well, I'll push back a little bit on that and say we are a human-centric organization, right? We deal with animals, but we also deal with humans. There's someone at the other end of that leash.
That's a great observation because I think most of us don't see it that way. We see the organizations that serve animals and or shelters and or spay-neuter type situations is, well, that's an animal-centric, but so true. There has to be a human-related situation because that animal's not going to go home alone.
Right. We're solving problems for people, problems that they are having with animals. One of those problems is they want an animal in their life and they don't have one. So that's an easy problem to solve. But there's lots of other problems that keeps having litters, overly aggressive, they can't afford the food, there's so many problems that people have concerning their animals. And that's what we do.
Before we get into the organization itself, tell me what brought you there. How did you end up at the Sacramento SPCA?
Well, like you, I was in media for many years, right? And around 2009, things started to not be great to be in the media world. And I decided to leave it and decided to do it in a big way, which is that we bought 80 acres up in Siskiyou County and we went and lived in a tent, literally in a tent in the woods at about 4,000 feet, right? So that's fun. Let's call it fun. It's interesting for some. It was a big challenge for us, but we wanted to challenge ourselves. And then after a couple years of thinking about and figuring out how to build a small off-the-grid cabin, economics rear their heads again and say, well, that's been fun, but you need money, right? Your health insurance is gone. You need a job. So I started looking around, decided I did not want to stay in journalism, and really sort of cast about to what are the other skills I have, which is storytelling, managing budgets. I was an executive with Hearst newspapers for many years, helping people who are passionate about what they do. And I started looking at chambers of commerce, tourism bureaus, things like that heavily riding dependent, right? You need communication. And once you're looking in that nonprofit world, you start seeing other possibilities. And I saw a job to run a small humane society in Southern Oregon. And at the time thought, how hard could that be? Turns out it's hard and it's a lot of work, but it's very rewarding. And I was able to turn around a bankrupt organization that was in danger of collapsing within months to a very financially healthy organization, really mission focused. And that drew the attention of the Sacramento SPCA. And I was asked to come down and interview. And I was relating this to a current board member. I think it was about an hour and a half interview and left thinking, well, that didn't go well, drove back up to Medford, Oregon. And about a month and a half later, they called and said, you've got they want you. I'm like, oh, the second interview. They're like, no, they want to hire you. And I'm like, either I'm very good or this is the stupidest organization on the planet that would hire someone after an hour and a half interview. But I think it was a little bit of both.
Yeah.
And it was a great match.
Well, and I can see just based on the demeanor and that history, that experience of both journalism and the business side of it is a distinction that most people don't have.
That is exactly right. That is exactly right. I went into journalism post-Watergate, the truth is out there, really get into it, but turned out to be very skilled at managing the people who are passionate about doing. So I was never a reporter. I was always an editor and then moved up into management and then to corporate. But the overlay to the job I have now is I'm working with people who are very passionate about what they do. You don't go into animal welfare. You don't go into this field without an intense amount of passion for what you're doing. And to be able to manage people who are passionate and help them realize their passions and do what they do by basically removing obstacles that have kept them from doing that, whether those are financial, procedural, whatever they are. There's always obstacles to passionate people. So let's remove those obstacles so they can shine at what they do.
Well, and I think that's exemplary by the organization's operation, which we're going to get into. The Sacramento SPCA has been serving our community since 1892.
1892.
I mean, that's a tremendous amount of foresight from the founders.
Yes.
Originally, or it still does, but I think it has a different connotation of the Society for Prevention of the Cruelty to Animals. And I really want to believe that cruelty to animals is the least of our concerns. But is that really the case?
I think it is. Listen, animal overpopulation is inherently cruel. Animals are on the streets. Animals are dumped. Animals live in backyards without human contact. But the vast majority of the issues we have with animals and with the people is keeping them healthy in the home they have. You know, when all of these humane societies and SPCAs, and a side note, none of them are related. This is not like the Red Cross or American Cancer Society.
Mm-hmm.
We are all independent organizations. We're not chapters. We're not franchises. We have no connection. So when you look at San Francisco SPCA or the San Diego Humane Society, we have no relation to them.
Similarity in name only.
In name only. It was a generic term in the late 1800s, early 1900s that people used in their own communities to describe efforts to help animals.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So if you give to the ASPCA with those awful, awful commercials that I cannot watch, we do not get that money. If you give to the Sacramento SPCA, all of it, every dime stays local here. We don't have to pay for the use of the name. We don't pay national dues, none of that. We're a local organization. We've been an independent local organization since 1892. So yes, people say SPCA, it's cruelty to animals, but because we're an independent organization, we get to define how we respond in our own community. And for many years now, and certainly for the past 5 years, that's been in providing and creating access to low-cost veterinary care.
And that tees us up beautifully to the next question of what are the programs you provide? And certainly the most popular. What do you see from the community as demand on your organization?
The biggest demand is certainly for spay-neuter services. We just pulled some statistics from 2022 on where we are nationally on the spay-neuter scene. Mm-hmm. And the answer is in the top 10, which people don't realize. In California, we're probably number 1. Because in 2022, we did 19,800 surgeries. In 2023, we did 20,300 surgeries.
Wow.
And to try to understand that impact, you look at the LA SPCA, separate organization, did 19,000 medical procedures, which included spay-neuter, but not exclusive to spay-neuter. San Diego, 17,000. San Francisco, 10,000. So we did almost twice the amount of spay-neuter surgeries as San Francisco. Nationally, there's only 2 or 3 organizations that do more, and all of them have multiple hospitals and mobile clinics. So when you think about the impact we have in our community in the spay-neuter scene, it is off the charts.
Why do you think we have such a high propensity for spay-neuter when you compare it to San Francisco or LA? Why are we bigger?
I think we're bigger because the SPCA, Sacramento SPCA, chose to do this. We didn't have to start doing spay-neuter for the public. We chose to do it. We didn't have to grow it. We chose to grow it. When we built the Cray Animal Health Center in 2021, it was to increase the ability to do spay-neuters, even if we didn't have the staff to do it. If we were fully staffed, we could do 30 to 40,000 surgeries.
And is the demand there?
The demand is there. The
Okay.
demand is off the charts. So the demand is there everywhere. The access is not there.
Mm-hmm.
So by creating this access, we're able to get a lot more done.
What are some of the other programs that one might find at the facility?
Well, I mean, obviously, you can come find an animal to add to your family. You can find a cat, a dog, a guinea pig, a rabbit. We adopt a lot of rabbits.
Really?
A lot of rabbits. And we also do spay and neuter on rabbits. We're one of the few places that do that. It's oddly enough the most complicated
There's a joke in there that
I know. There is. It's the most complicated surgery we have is a spay and neuter of a rabbit. I didn't know that, but now I know that.
Wow.
So we do about 4,000 adoptions a year, which is a great number. Mm-hmm. We provide healthcare of some form, whether it's vaccination, spay, neuter, or wellness, to 40,000 animals.
Wow.
I know it's a disproportion, and no one knows that, right? We just sort of quietly.
Well, hopefully we're getting that message
and hopefully
out.
we're getting that message out.
Yes.
So I think the other program that is highly important to us and to the community is a safe haven for people to surrender their animals. So when you look at the Sacramento area, we're very, quite frankly, blessed with lots of animal welfare organizations. We have the city shelter downtown. We have the county shelter out on Bradshaw. We've got Happy Tails over on Folsom Avenue, and we have the Sacramento SPCA. The challenge, certainly for the city and county facilities, is having too many animals that come astray so they can't help the people who need to surrender an animal. So we've always tried to create that space that you can surrender your animal. You might not be able to do it today or tomorrow, but if we can work with you to get a plan that in 2 weeks we will take that dog, or in 7 days we will take that cat, so that we can manage our population so we're never completely overwhelmed.
We'll be right back with more from Ken Altine once we thank the people that are responsible for allowing us to do what we do. I was in the media business for over 35 years and had the great privilege of working with Runyon Saltzman, RSE, Marketing, Advertising, and Public Relations. We collaborated on many different campaigns, but their commitment to the nonprofit sector hasn't changed since their founder, Gene Runyon, started the agency. Over many years and many campaigns, Runyon Saltzman has been committed to improving lives by tackling California's most challenging issues. Guided by research-informed strategies and insightful, creative solutions, RSE develops innovative communications campaigns that raise awareness, educate, and reduce stigma in diverse communities throughout our state and beyond. To learn more about RSE, visit rs-e.com.
I'm Kelly Brothers. At Cap Trust, we help individuals and families with wealth planning. We help big organizations with their corporate retirement plans. But we also do a lot of work with endowments and foundations, providing fiduciary advice for their investment management, their risk management, or working with donors. Give me a call or reach out via our website or ask one of our clients, Sacramento SPCA, Sacramento Food Bank, or the Greater Sacramento Economic Council. Cap Trust in Sacramento, Roseville, or Folsom. Find us at captrust.com or call 916-924-7527.
I'm thrilled to have Western Health Advantage partnering with us as they do so much to support so many nonprofit agencies in our community. As a truly local health plan, you'll find individual and family options, employer options, plans for CalPERS and Medicare Advantage. From medical services to pharmacy, health and wellness support, as well as behavioral health care, Western Health Advantage has a plan that fits what you need. As an employer, for profit or nonprofit business, individual or family, you can find more at westernhealth.com. Perfect segue to the next question. You don't control what comes in some cases. It sounds like you do a little bit where you can manage it. You don't necessarily control the outgoing, because if you have an influx of people that have an interest in adopting, maybe you see more animals go out. But what happens when that balance gets a little bit out of order? How do you manage incoming, outgoing, so that you're not overwhelmed?
It's an art, right? It just is. And the variables are spaces for cats, spaces for dogs, spaces for large dogs versus spaces for small dogs, older dogs, younger dogs, dogs with illness. 1 in 5 animals who come to us have extraordinary needs, healthcare needs, that we have a whole shelter medicine department that takes care of, but we have to manage how many they're caring for at any one time.
Mm-hmm.
So we sort of pull some levers. We slow the intake of large dogs, right? If you've got a large dog, you're probably going to wait the longest to surrender that animal than you are if you've got a young, altered, small dog. We will fast track that because we know that dog is only going to spend 2 or 3 days at our shelter before it gets adopted. But if you have an older, unaltered, large dog, we know that dog's going to spend a lot more time in our shelter. And during that time, it's going to take a toll on their behavior, their emotions, and on their physical health. Mm-hmm. So we want to make sure that we have a plan for each of those animals that keeps them engaged, keeps their spirits up, quite frankly, and keeps their health good. So we don't want to fill our shelter full of 9-year-old German Shepherds, because to get a 9-year-old German Shepherd adopted takes months, not days. So we have to balance that. And it means that if you're trying to surrender a 9-year-old German Shepherd, we're going to ask you to wait a little longer than if you're surrendering a 4-year-old miniature poodle.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to say this in a way that doesn't say we're marketing these small dogs, is that we know that small dogs get adopted faster.
It's a demand.
It's a
supply and
demand. It's a
yes.
supply and demand. But my heart is always for the older big dogs. That is my heart, especially a senior dog whose human has died. I will move heaven and earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that dog is already going through its own emotional issues,
Mm-hmm.
very different from humans, but very real for an animal, and is now in a shelter environment where everything is different and new and scary. And I want to throw a lot of resources, which is people, volunteers, staff, medical staff, to help that animal stay sane and stay healthy while it's with us. So we know how much effort that's going to take.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to balance that. And by saying to someone else, we need you to wait a little longer. Here are some options. Why are you trying to surrender? You can't afford food? Let's get you some food. There's a health issue with the animal that you can't afford a vet. Let's get you in to see through our wellness clinic. You're tired of this animal having litters? Boy, can we really help you. And we might fast track you on our spay-neuter list just to keep the animal in the home it has. And that really is that spot that I've really tried to push through using my position in the state and in the nation to say, we have to stop judging people who are considering surrendering their animal because they were overwhelmed for whatever reason, and start trying to find a way to keep the animal in the home it has and help that home be better than just take that animal in and hope to find, quote unquote, the perfect home for it.
Mm-hmm.
The old model was we're going to take the animal away from people who don't deserve it or can't care for it or we don't think qualify, and we're going to find the perfect home for it so it'll be happy and rainbows and unicorns and right?
Yes.
When we actually have no control of what happens to the animal after it gets adopted.
Right.
So we know where it's at. We know what the needs of the people are who have the animal. Let's help them. Let's help people so that they can keep the animal in that home rather than face that very difficult
Mm-hmm.
decision to surrender it.
You mentioned something with regard to your hospital care and vets. How many vets do you have?
Well, I don't want to say because people will start trying to hire them away.
So it's hard to get vets.
It's very hard. There is a national shortage of vets.
Wow.
It was called out in 2019. I was at a presentation that said in 2019, the forecast was by 2030, there would be 15,000 fewer vets in the nation. And what I learned there is more like 11% of all licensed vets in the nation are in California. So disproportionate, right?
Yep.
And now after the pandemic, we're probably looking closer to 30,000 vet shortage by 2030, which is still
Significant.
6 years away, right?
Yeah, that's a big number.
That's a big number. You can't just open a new vet school overnight. You can't just increase the number of vets who go through a vet school overnight. Yeah. You have to have facilities. You have to have curriculum. You have to have instructors who are, by the way, vets, right?
Yeah.
So we really have to work our way through this and understanding nonprofits have to compete at the pay level with for-profit. For-profit veterinary care has been the trend now for many, many years. You see large corporations who buy up practices and consolidate and conglomerate, still provide great care, but it's a different model.
Mm-hmm.
So we have, I think now, 5 full-time, probably about 10 part-time, and another 5 or 6 occasional vets, someone who will work every other Saturday or
a lot of people.
A lot of people. It's a lot of people. But you have to understand, on any given day, we're going to do 60 to 70 surgeries. We're going to see upwards of 100 animals for our vaccine clinic. We'll have a dozen or more animals who are actively getting care a day wellness appointments, so
not to mention walk-ins.
And not to mention walk-ins, and we provide indoor shelter medicine program, plus our, 10 live services for animals who are old and whose owners come to us for that service. On any given day, our vets are going to touch, let's do that math, 250 250 animals.
That's an amazing number.
It's a crazy number.
Yes.
I'm sitting here adding up saying that's crazy. That's a crazy number.
In one facility.
In one facility. Yes. Just right out
multiple
there on
hospitals I can see, and it makes a little more sense, but that's in one facility.
Exactly. And so that's probably the equivalent of 10 vet clinics.
Yeah.
Right.
So taking that a step further now, you've got vets which are trained medical professionals. We do have access to Davis. Does that benefit you a little bit?
Well, it does
UC
in
Davis?
that Sacramento and Davis have a lot of vets who live here because they went to school here and they love the area. We all love the area, right?
Yes.
And they decided to make their home here. So that gives us a better pool of vets than, say, if we were in Fresno or if we were in Bakersfield.
Okay. Well, it's leading me to the next question because that's expensive.
It's very expensive.
And let's talk a little bit about that support for the organization. You are a big operation, millions of dollars big. Where does your money come from to fund the team that it takes to keep everything running smoothly and up to expectation with the demand that you have?
It comes from people. It comes from people who want to help animals, who care deeply about animals, and are looking for an organization who fulfills their needs. When people give money, they don't necessarily give money to a cause. They give money to an organization who they believe will do the best good, who will do the most with that dollar to help the animals in a way that is meaningful to the donor. If you care deeply about, our feral and community cats, as I do, you recognize there's not a lot of programs out there. And so when you find an organization that cares as deeply about them as you do, that's where you will give your money rather than just, continuing to buy bags of food and try to go out and help feral cats and trap them and bring them in. People do that, and God bless them. We love them because that's how we get to help so many cats. So when I talk about 20,000 spay-neuter surgeries, almost 7,000 of those are on community and feral cats at low or no cost to our community because we have supporters who care deeply about those animals and know the programs we do and support the programs that we do.
And do they then go back into their colonies, so to speak? Okay.
Yes. I can talk for 18 hours about community and feral cats, but the simple answer is just taking a cat out of that community does not solve the problem because that creates a vacuum and nature will fill that vacuum.
Right.
By putting altered animals back into those colonies, we stabilize them. And we can get these colonies stable. They stop growing because, nature finds a way to match food to animals, right? A lot of food, a lot of animals. Scarce food, fewer animals. So if you can stabilize these populations, we're going to have a healthier, happier community cat population.
What are some of the biggest fundraisers that you have throughout the year?
Well, one's coming up is the Doggy Dash. It's probably our biggest fundraiser. It's the most fun. And it's in William Land Park. It's come out with your dogs. It's not an official run because we actually don't want you running with a bunch of dogs, right? But it's a great day to walk. You can do a 3K. You can do a 5K. There's lots of vendors out there. You can learn a lot about healthcare. You can learn a lot about the services in our community. We love our canine officers, and we always do a demonstration with local law enforcement and the canine officers. And it's just a great way to be outside with your pet. And we realized that our fundraisers need to really connect people with animals, right? So our other big fundraiser is our gala. It's in October, and it's on campus. It used to be down at the convention center. No animals. You were down there. Now it's come out. You can go through our vet hospital. You can see the animals in the adoption center, and you sort of make that connection to who we are and what we do. So those are the two largest fundraisers.
Back to the Doggy Dash for a second, because this is pre-recorded, it will be evergreen. People could listen to it next year.
Right.
Is it every March?
It is every April.
April, okay.
It is every April at William Land Park. It's a great way for businesses, quite frankly, to get involved with our organization. Just put together a team.
Yeah.
Because, what do we know in the world? Peer-to-peer fundraising is everything. So if you're a business and you've thought about supporting the SPCA or looking for a community event for your for your company, as many are, form a team. Each of your team members will fundraise. It's a great way to do it. Then you come out as a group and you have a lot of fun with your animals, because every office has animal people in it. I guarantee it.
There was a day when you couldn't bring a pet to the office. Today, it's everywhere.
No one blinks, right?
Right.
Yes.
We had a Great Dane. Our office is fairly small.
Yeah.
It's about 1,500 square feet total. A gentleman had a puppy, Great Dane, and we watched, her name was Kitty, and we watched Kitty grow up to be full size.
A Great Dane.
Great Dane, which is a big dog. It was the most docile, wonderful
There are reasons
animal.
they're the quintessential New York apartment dog, which people
Yes.
do not understand, because they are low energy,
Yeah.
highly trainable. They don't need long walks. It's actually not great for them to go for super long walks. They're chill. They are chill.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was just a wonderful beast, and would scare the heck out of anybody coming in because it's a big animal with a big bark.
It's a deep.
Yeah.
It sounds, oh my goodness, what is that?
And people might hear, yeah, oh, Kitty, we have a dog here, and we call her Kitty, but that thing comes out, and they're like, oh my God.
Yeah, he's like, well, we want
They
you to
expect
meet
cute
Kitty.
A cute little animal, right? Quite the contrary. So, we have a significant number of community philanthropists who listen to the various organizations that we have on the podcast. On your website, you have your financials posted. I mean, full transparency, everything's up there. And that's a pretty bold move, to say, here's what we are, here's what we do, and here's where your money goes. What would you say to a potential donor considering a gift to the Sacramento SPCA?
Well, it's the same whether it's a gift to us or to any other organization, is do your homework, right? If you're not finding the 990s, which is the tax filing that nonprofits are required to have on their website, you will find it on places like GuideStar, which is now Clarity, right? It changed its name to Clarity. And
something like clarity.com or
clarity.org, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
And if you do guidestar.org, I think you'll still get there.
And we'll put that in the show notes too.
Where we have the highest rating, right? Because they rate you on how transparent you are, how well you're doing on your mission, how much of your money is going to your programs. And for us, it's 83 cents of every dollar, which is very, very good in the
especially
nonprofit
given
world.
the expense that you've got.
Given our overhead, absolutely. And so we take great pride in having that rating both with both Charity Navigator and Clarity, to say that, this is who we are, this is what we do. And read those 990s, because if you go deep into them, there's places where people can tell you what they did, 20,000 surgeries. We fill in every last one of those blanks. We write the narrative to say what exactly the money went to. Many organizations don't bother to fill that out because it's not required. So we want to make sure that you understand who we are, who our leaders are, who our board members are, and what exactly it is that we do with that money.
Let's go into the process of some things. What's the drop off and pick up adoption process look like?
Well, drop off, surrender.
Got it.
Right. So we are appointment based.
And owner surrender doesn't necessarily mean failing animal. It could just be a variety of different reasons. It could be a wonderful young pet.
Absolutely. And this was internally, this was a big shift that we had to go through, was to stop judging people who surrender animals to us. And I remember early on in our intake department, which is one of the toughest departments, because people don't want to surrender their animals. Yeah, you're going to have a few who said, I don't like this animal. I don't want it in my house, blah, blah, blah. Just take it. But for the most part, these are cherished family members through no fault of their own. And quite frankly, through no fault of the humans, need a haven, need a place to go. And it's a very emotionally charged conversation. So when you're an employee in the intake department, I remember having a conversation. I said, did you thank that person who surrendered their animal? And one employee said, why on earth would I thank someone for dumping their animal? And I'm like, well, let's just stop and think. So first of all, why did this animal come to us? Well, her mother died. It was her mother's cat. She brought the cat home. It's not getting along with her cat. I'm like, so what did she do wrong? What did she do wrong with this animal? Well, she should have given him more time. Well, how long did she have it? Well, 5 months. I said, that seems pretty long.
Long time.
To go with two cats who do not like each other, right? It's stressing the cat that she already had and has a loving relationship with. I said, so when we look at the options this person had, and some of them are pretty awful, right? They chose us. So would it be possible to just thank them for choosing us? To just say, you know what? Thank you for trusting us with this animal.
Yes.
And the employee said, I never really thought about that before. Yes, I can do that. And I think that once we stop judging people and once we start recognizing that there are a lot of bad options and we're the good option.
Right.
And they chose the good option, and we need to say thank you for doing that. As hard as it is on them, and it's hard to thank people who are angry or reactive, but we have to understand why they're angry and reactive. That they're dealing with their own internal emotions about this decision.
Right.
And by giving them, this is the most important thing I've learned in this job. We will forgive an animal just about anything, right? And we have so much patience with puppies and with, so patience and forgiveness towards animals is like the easiest thing you can do. And it seems to be the hardest thing to do towards humans.
Right.
It just does. So if each of us can think about the patience and forgiveness we give our animals every day and just give that to humans every day, wow, what a difference that would make.
And what a perspective. It's just a simple mind shift.
I'm a better human for working with animals. It is just that I am a better human being.
Yeah.
For the work I've done with animals. And that is the gift they have given me.
Take that now to the outgoing process.
Right. So I recognize I didn't fully answer your question.
That's okay. I'll get you there.
So the intake process is you need to make an appointment so we can better match the entry of that animal to the services. So if that animal needs spay-neuter and we're backlogged on spay-neuter, why are we going to have that animal sit in a kennel for a week when it can stay in your home for a week?
Right.
And we found that by giving people that pressure valve of they need to surrender their animal, now they've got a date, the pressure is off. Often they find that the problem they were having resolves itself in that time. Once they de-escalated and didn't feel the need to I have to give up this cat today, suddenly they're like, oh, was I overreacting? My sister loved my mother's cat. She thought I loved the cat. She's going to take the cat. We find some resolution happens.
So it's not 100%
correct.
In.
That is correct.
Wonderful.
And that has been one of the biggest surprises when we shifted to what we called managed intake, is that when people would miss their appointment and we would call back and say, hey, do you need to reschedule? Oh, no. And well, what's changed? I was having a bad day. I'd had it. I recognized it was a puppy. Puppies are hard. Or, my sister found out that I had an appointment. She said, but I'll take the cat. So she's going to try that. It may work, it may not, but we're trying other things. Or my neighbor, people find a solution once the pressure valve is released.
Yeah.
Right?
That's great to hear.
It's phenomenal to hear.
Is there a percentage that you would say?
Oh, I would say at least 25%.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Which is wonderful because we don't want these animals entering any shelters.
Well,
as proud as I am as my shelter,
right.
I don't want any animals entering
100, that's 25 more.
That is exactly right. On the flip side, what that means is the most challenged animals, the ones who have the biggest behavior issues, or the ones that are old, or the ones who are sick, regardless of age, those appointments are always kept. Mm-hmm. So there's been a bit of a disproportion as a result of that, which has, I think, led people to believe that shelters are full of sick, old, and dangerous animals, which is not the case. Do we have older animals? Yes, but they've been treated. And with us, it means they get a dental, they get blood work. We know everything about that senior animal, so you don't have to, there's no surprises when you adopt. So on the adoption end is we try to set you up for success, where it used to be we tried to set the animal up for success. Mm-hmm. We would say, what's the best home? The ideal home for this animal, it's the only dog and there's no kids and they have a fenced backyard. And suddenly we have this long list of criteria for the only place this dog can go, which excludes a lot of adopters. Instead of saying, what is your expectation? One of my board members is going to laugh when she hears this, because I always talk about, are you looking, is your house a circus or a library? So do you want a circus cat or do you want a library cat? She's going to laugh because I adopted her a library cat who's actually a circus cat. She found out much later, this is a circus cat, not a library cat. And that the cat loves to play, loves to run around, loves to do everything, versus just likes to chill.
Right.
So we tried to help understand what's your expectation, because when animals get returned, and return rate is really low, like 8%, and that's mostly dogs. The return rate of cats is really, really low, like 2%.
Mm-hmm.
Often it's what we call failed expectations. Like they didn't understand that puppies cry all night, right? Or that puppies need, or even an older dog who's lived in the house, hasn't lived in your house, doesn't know how to use the doggy door, doesn't know which door to go out to, and gets get confused in the
Where's
first.
the backyard? Where's the front
yard?
Where do
What
you
am I
want me?
supposed to do? How do I tell you I need to do this? Because in my old house, I would just go sit by the door,
Right.
or I'd come up and tap you. And that's how I would communicate. I need to go outside, and that's not working. And I still need to go outside, and I'm just going to have to pick a spot here.
Right.
Right. So we try to match the expectations and do a lot of education of the family about what this transition is going to look like.
Mm-hmm. That's a great entry to a transition. Have you got a story that you could tell of just a wonderful adoption? What that might look like?
Well, it's funny. I can go down the list of extraordinary cases, but I think that's part of the myth of the types of animals who are in our shelters. When often it's just this dog came in, got spayed and neutered, went on the adoption floor. Couple walked by, said he's a cutie, fell in love, and took him home. And he spent 3 days with us, and we really don't know anything about him. Versus this animal's been with us 6 months, and when she gets adopted, we make an announcement, because all the staff and the volunteers who invested in this animal for months get to come and say goodbye. So both of those stories happen every day, and that's the normal thing. But of course, there's extraordinary cases. Oddly enough, it's going to be an animal cruelty case, which is the exception for us, and that's why it stands out. A dog named Velvet, who had been locked out on the apartment balcony by a family who got overwhelmed with a pregnancy and a newborn and the needs of an animal they clearly were ill-prepared to deal with. So the dog got literally just locked out on the balcony.
Big dog, small dog?
Medium-sized dog.
Okay.
And the neighbors noticed this dog out there and her condition getting worse and getting worse and getting worse. And so when they were finally called animal control, it was a city case, and the city went there and found the animal. She was in pretty rough shape. She, there's a scale of weight. She was basically a 0 to a 1, which is skin and bones is the best way to describe it. And
visible to others.
Visible to others.
Because she's on a balcony.
Because she was on a balcony, and that's why it finally reached a point where there's like, we can't watch this.
Somebody
anymore.
called. Good.
Somebody called. Very good. Very, very good. So ended up at the city shelter. These are extreme medical cases. I mean, the chances of this animal surviving are pretty low, but we have the McRae Center. We have vets. We have everything we need. So they called, and of course we said yes. And I got to tell you, she really touched my heart. This dog didn't go into the kennel. She went into my office, and she curled up on the couch. And this is the case so often, that this is a dog who had every reason not to trust humans, every reason not to like humans. And all she wanted to do was give love. The hardest thing, I've done a lot of things in my life. I've had a lot of loss. I've had a lot of joy. I've had a lot of grief. No more than the average person, I think, but we all have it.
Yes.
The toughest thing I've ever done in my life is to give this dog 3 tablespoons of food and then stop feeding her, because she was so emaciated we could not overwhelm her internal organs. We just couldn't. So she could only get 3 tablespoons of food and then wait several hours to get, and she's starving. And I just want to feed her, right? Food is love.
Right.
Just want to feed her. But I knew I couldn't if I wanted her to survive. And she went home with me every night, came back to work with me every day, so that we could just really be consistent about the food. And to see her so slowly put on weight. And her demeanor never changed. Just the sweetest. God, she's so sweet. and then getting her to an adoption and getting her to the point so we could do some before and after and really show people the commitment we have as an organization, how we believe in every animal. And then we had our gala, and she came back. We will do what's needed. I easily could have lost her, and it would have been devastating. But I would also know that up until her last moment, she would have been loved, right? And that is everything to me. That she may have, it's miraculous that she didn't, quite frankly. But from the moment she got out of that situation, she was a loved animal. And that's all any of us can ever be, right? Loved animals.
I would not have thought that the emotion would be as great, in some cases greater, on the shelter side as it is to the family adopting and the experience and joy of getting the new pet. But I understand now, especially one of those challenging situations like Velvet, where it's a process and it took time and it took love for that animal. That animal wouldn't have made it if it didn't experience the love of the organization.
That is exactly right. And so when we have these animals that were with us a long time and they do get adopted, it's an event.
Yes.
It is just like, Wanda, a dog who just got adopted, and then it goes up on the PA system, staff and volunteers, Wanda's been adopted. If you want to say goodbye. And I think it's important when you look at, right now shelters are full of huskies. So like this older female husky who's been with us a while, who gets a family, the message it sends to the family who might have been thinking, well, is there something wrong with this dog? She's been here for 6 months. To have 15 people show up to say goodbye says there's something special about this animal.
Yes.
This animal is deserving of your love because she's been deserving of our love.
Yes.
Right. And I think that's an important message. And to send to the family as they walk out of the door is just think, wow, while that animal was here, she was loved. And that is absolutely true. And that is the biggest challenge of working in this nonprofit segment is it takes all of your heart. And some days it takes more than you think you have.
Right. And it's difficult, I imagine, all the way around for the family to see the exit of the dog because they see these 15 people show up who have been caring for the animal, cat, rabbit, whatever it may be, and go, oh my gosh, there's emotion all around in a variety of different ways. And some with some sadness, I'm sure, and some with just jubilation that now this animal's got a family that's going to care for it. It's out of our care into somebody's life and a part of their life, a part of their family. Ken, what's the greatest need you have right now at the SPCA?
Well, you asked the question earlier, and I really do follow squirrels.
But you don't take squirrels in.
No, we do not take squirrels in. My staff has gotten good about saying, Ken, you're following a squirrel. Let's get back here. So you asked about our money and our finances. So we are dependent on donors. We are dependent on the kindness of strangers, but also the kindness of friends, people who have supported us for decades. So the bulk of our money comes from straight out donations, followed by estate gifts, people who have left us money.
Planned giving.
Planned giving is huge for so many people and definitely is significant for us. And then the low fees we charge for our services. We may charge you $200 for a spay, but if you went outside of the organization into the private veterinary store, that was going to be $800 for that spay. So those fees. So always our biggest need is the financial support of our community.
Sure.
That is always going to be our biggest need, is the financial support of our community.
What's the best way to get in touch with the organization?
There's two really good ways. It depends on if you want to help or you need help, right?
Okay.
Those
so
are
two different points of entry.
Two different points of entry.
Okay.
That's exactly right. So if you need help, the best thing is to go on our website, sspca.org, and look at the programs. Do you need help with spay neuter? Here's how to. Do you need help with vaccinations? Do you need help surrendering an animal? Do you need help adopting an animal? To really sort of go through those categories. It's a good, rich website that will help walk you through that process.
I will compliment and second that. That is a wonderful website with so much detail and information that you really don't need to know about websites. It's right there and easy to navigate, very intuitive. So
good. Thank you for
congratulations. Yes.
And if you want to support the work we do, the number is 916-504-2804. And if you're a business and you want to become a partner with us, because, it is about partnerships.
Mm-hmm.
We have great partnerships. River City Bank, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kelly Brothers and Cap Trust, just these Mark Drobny and Drobny Law. We have these incredible partnerships with local businesses. And, again, Doggy Dash, just put together a team. Your staff will love it. It's a great staff event. That's 916-504-2802 to think about how your business can help your community by helping the animals in your community.
And before I forget, we just completed the Super Bowl and Puppy Bowl. How did Bark Purdy do?
If I encourage you all to Google the name Bark Purdy, BARKPURDY, and then click on the images. You're going to see the reach that this little dog, this little Chihuahua puppy, had across the world. In Japan, the New York Times, Good Morning America, several Reddit threads on this dog. It was, if you didn't watch the Puppy Bowl, I watch it every year. It's the funniest thing you're ever going to see. It's hilarious. It's hilarious.
Yes.
It brings attention to adoptable animals and really highlights what I've sort of been trying to say throughout this. If you have patience, you are going to find the exact dog that you're looking for,
mm-hmm.
whether that's a Chihuahua, whether that's a Great Dane puppy. We had a purebred bloodhound puppy several months ago. If you wanted a bloodhound,
there it was.
He wasn't. I looked at it, sent a text home. The message came back, heck no, except the word wasn't heck. So it highlights the full range of animals, in this case puppies, you're going to find in shelters across the United States.
Yes.
So it's a great program to highlight that. It's also a lot of fun to watch. And quite frankly, it brings attention to our organization that says, this is your local organization in your community doing this work.
Yeah. And it's great work you do. And again, perfect way to wrap the segment. Thank you so much for what you do, what your team does each and every day to support our pet and animal communities. I don't believe people realize the scope of the services you provide. And you just scratched the surface, really, of what happens on a day-to-day in the shelter. What a blessing to have an organization as multifaceted as what Sacramento SPCA does. So you're right in our backyard. Matter of fact, where is the shelter?
6201 Florin Perkins Road. Crossroad is Fruit Ridge.
Well, Ken, thank you so much for giving us more insight into a world that's made up of tail wagging and purring and loving licks.
And people. And people. Right?
And people.
The people who work there, the people who support our work, and the people who need our services.
And the people who need an animal in their life.
People who need an animal in their life.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Once again, we're grateful to the businesses who have made this program possible. Cap Trust, fiduciary advice for endowments and foundations. You can find them in Sacramento, Roseville, and Folsom, or at captrust.com. Runyon Saltzman Incorporated, RSC, marketing, advertising, and public relations, creating integrated communications committed to improving lives. You can find them at rs-e.com. And Western Health Advantage, a full-service healthcare plan for individuals, employer groups, and families. westernhealth.com. Thank you for listening to the Nonprofit Podcast Series. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If what you heard moved you, please reach out to that organization and do what you can to help. If you like and appreciate what we're doing to support local nonprofits, please give us a positive review, subscribe, and share. If you're a nonprofit with an interest in participating in an episode, you can reach us at info@multipointstrategies.com. The Nonprofit Podcast Network is a production of Multipoint Content Strategies and is recorded and edited by Hear Me Now Studio.